Welcome to Greg and Andy Unleashed, and we have a very special guest with us today. We are so excited to have our very own pastor, Pastor Hernan Hullana,
Hey guys.
with us.
How
So
you going?
thank you for coming on, Pastor.
Yeah, I've been waiting for the invite. I mean, you know, all these episodes later. But
It's
listen,
happened.
like, I'm just glad I finally made it on your list. You know, so
Better late than never.
yeah, as they say.
Nah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad we have you, Pastor. Thank you.
Good.
The very first time that I met Pastor was, like 15 years ago. I was in high school. I was talking with him about it beforehand.
Yeah.
I was in primary school.
Yeah.
And I was at a conference, and there was... All I remember from the conference, that it was like the kids part of the conference. It was a ton of fun. We had heaps of fun. And there were two people, Mr. H and Mr. G.
Yeah,
And I was
Mr. G.
oh, and Mr. H was now Pastor
That's
Hernan.
me.
So, yeah.
So all the kids used to call me Mr. H.
Mr. H.
Right? Because back then we had just started a Christian school, and I was just basically, you know, I did everything youth related in our church, and including in that was our school. But of course, you can't be first name basis in a school, so they all called me Mr. H, right? And then
Was the H for Hernan or Hullana?
that's a mystery till
Yeah, right. Okay.
But then, Mr. G was another guy that started out. We were in an internship together at our church, and he just helped me out. Like, he just was sort of my right hand guy. He did all the stuff I didn't want to do. You know, set up games and things that I didn't want to fuss with, and he just wanted me to focus on leading and preaching. So it was a good partnership, and I do remember Andy, but I always,
no.
I do.
Oh, no.
I always got, like, how many Olivers are there?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
I remember
it's
that,
like, which
yeah.
Oliver are you? Was really the
that's
question.
it.
So,
That's it. There you go. eh?
Unreal.
so
Well, when was the first time I met you? Probably. Oh, you came over for dinner that once.
yeah, but I met you way before that.
Really?
Yeah, because I would come to leadership conferences. here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've run into you. I've met your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad met me every year for the first time. Like, you know, like, he introduced himself, and I would introduce myself again. And then, you know, and I'm sure I met you before. But,
there you
you
go.
wouldn't have remembered. So.
Nah. That left a real impact there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
gold.
I was going to jump straight in and just ask you about how you found your move coming from Sydney to Brisbane, because obviously a bit of a probably a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah,
What does that feel like?
honestly, you know, it was not at all in my plans. You know, it came as a bit of a shock for us as well, that really God opened the door for us to move up here. From a practical and even cultural point of view, I mean, I'd been here enough times to know a few of the church folks, and I felt like I had a good friendship with, you know, Barnsey and others who, you know, when I've come for leadership, I've always been the type of guy just hang around, and I love ministry. So anyone in ministry, I sort of would just get along with anyway. And, you know, I'd have memories with them, some leadership conferences when they were still, you know, here late into the night. I just hung around anyway. Like, I just loved being around ministry people. So I had sort of those memories to sort of grab to, and, you know, I'd spent enough time in Brisbane over the course of living in Sydney and traveling here that I sort of understood it, but it was definitely more of a shock that we were coming here permanently, you know.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, it was in the middle of that whole COVID time.
Oh, true.
So just moving here was a challenge in itself. But
What was the flights and all that like? Was it going on at the time?
yeah, look, we couldn't drive through because there was the hard border close when they
Far out.
So what happened was, you know, we got voted in as, you know, as a pastor, and then we had a bit of a timeline to sort of go, oh, maybe in 3 months we got to settle some things in Sydney, but really felt after maybe a month into it, that we really needed to start ramping up the move, and, you know, sort of praying through it, but also looking through the news and things that were happening. I knew there was going to be some sort of hard border close, you know. I remember one morning I woke up and I was just reading my Bible, and I really felt Just the Lord saying, get a move on.
Wow.
You know, and I'm thinking, I still have so much to do to
Yeah.
get things settled in Sydney.
And because of the borders closing, is that why? Wow.
And we didn't understand why there was an urgency. I just felt like there was an urgency. And I remember talking to Azzy about it, and she was like, we haven't even packed. You know, I said, yeah, I know, but we really need to get serious.
Wow.
And so that week we called a couple of people here, and we said, can you check these houses out for us? Because we couldn't even, at that point, come across to look at houses. So we had a couple of people looking at houses for us, and
That's crazy.
calling us while they're walking around these random houses for us, and so we just start packing, and then literally the week after, we get a phone call from one of the people here and said, hey, you got the house, you know, it was the first one my wife loved and wanted us to apply for, so we got that.
Wow.
Then that day I called my people back in Sydney. From our church, and said, look, guys, we're going to have to escalate.
Wow.
Because I just feel like we need to do it. And they're like, why?
Yeah.
You know, and I said, I don't know. I've been praying about it. I really feel burdened that I need to go. And so sort of escalated it from a 3-month plan to a 6-week plan.
Wow.
And it became this rush to get out. And then that day on the news, it came across that the borders were going to close. And we couldn't drive through now, so we had to fly. So we had to fly and leave our vehicle over there. We had to organize a moving truck that's specialized, you know, the whole COVID thing. And they had to spray it with special whatever, you know. And so we packed our stuff within a week, got everything in that truck. We chucked half the house, you know, left it there on the street. And our neighbors came and, you know, took whatever they wanted, and then the rest got picked up by the council. And literally from that time to 3 weeks later, we were on the way. And we flew in, you know, through the whole COVID thing. We quarantined for 2 weeks. And then,
That's crazy.
Got out, and the first time we saw the house and actually physically was there was when we arrived after quarantine. So
that's the first time. Yeah. Where'd you have to do quarantine? In a hotel?
We had to, and that's the thing. I see how God really moved there, because that same week we were the last plane to actually come through the border, because the premier at the time, Kala Sheikh, closed that too, because the hotels were full.
Yeah, true.
So she said, you know, she had closed the border to Queensland completely. So if we waited another. We estimated if we waited another 2 weeks and didn't get moving, it wouldn't have been till December instead of August when we got here.
Wow,
so,
that's
and
insane.
at that point we were like,
yeah.
man, a church without a pastor that long.
Yeah.
Bless you, by the way.
You got pastor and I'm already blessed.
Who knows? I mean, after 4 months, who knows what kind of church we would have gone into?
Yes,
and, you know, all of that. So we see God's hand in our move, definitely, and even in those little things through COVID, just getting
That's
a small
awesome,
order
man.
to come through. So
That's so incredible how God really spoke to you that clearly, and how it really played out to show why he did that. Eh? What about your kids? How did they find the move? Were they they struggle?
They were probably surprisingly so much more excited than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
And you guys understand they grew up in the church that we were in. That all they knew was Sydney. You know, they were born there. From day dot, they were in the church, in the ministry. You know, all of that. Just and really couldn't imagine anywhere else. But honestly, God used them to sort of confirm our move here. You know, they that Sunday I came, not as a candidate. I honestly just came just out of my friendship to the church, my respect for Pastor Shemish, is a mentor, and so, you know, he had asked me to come, just come and help the church and everything else, but the men I knew wanted to sit with me, and I knew what that meant, right? So, so I sort of sat down, and after that weekend, I just decided I'll bring the whole family, you know.
Oh, wow.
Break. So we came here.
Yep.
It was just a Sunday. I was just preaching. I preached, and that the Saturday, when we got here, I met with the men, and honestly, I've taken my family on different holidays. You know, we've been to Hawaii, we went to Disneyland,
Far out.
and they've never had trouble coming home. Like, they've always gotten to a point and said, you know, let's go home. But that particular one, we just drove to Brisbane. Really nothing trip. They did nothing fun. The most fun they had was on our church playground. And if you've seen that, I mean, it's pretty basic, right? And so that's all the fun that they had, honestly. But we left, and you know, I really sensed God worked, and I'm glad for the sit down with the men. You know, they had asked me, "Can you consider pastoring our church?" And I said, "Look, I'm not looking for a ministry. I've already got one. But I'll ask for the will of God.
Of course.
You know, that's ultimately that's what I want." So that's all I was praying. But we were heading home, and my kids, they didn't want to leave.
Wow.
They were we crossed the border, and literally they started crying. They were saying, "Dad, please move us to Brisbane." All three of them. And I'm looking at my wife like, "What is going on? Like, what'd you feed them?" And she's looking at me like, "This is bizarre."
Yeah, right.
And then probably for about half an hour, they cried, saying, "Dad, move us to Brisbane, please."
Wow.
And I'm looking at that like, what is going on?
That's crazy. Eh?
So we're driving, you know, it's a 10-hour drive. And we're just in real reflective mood. Kids, and eventually fall asleep. And as you know, we're just talking, and I thought, really, like, my last line of defense is my wife. You know, she never liked Brisbane. Like, every time we've come here for conferences, I've spoken here and different things. Every time she's come, she's not hated the church. Hated Brisbane. Just she's like, I can never live there.
That's a lot of Sydney people, mate.
Yeah,
just
but
in
she
general,
she never liked it, to be honest. So I looked at her. We're driving. I go, you think you could actually move to Brisbane? And I'm thinking, surely she's
please say no.
no.
Yeah, please say no.
I actually really think this is God.
Oh no.
And I look at her like, thanks a lot. What are you doing? But she was just like, no, I actually think we should pray about this.
Wow.
And so this is the way home.
Wow.
And we get there finally, and the kids are just like, oh, that was the best time. And
so what do you think they liked about it?
I still to this day have no idea.
Right.
I just think the Spirit of God moved in them and made them feel home. Like, that's really, because the next time we came together as a family, we had just got it voted in after that, a couple of months later, and then we were driving here now as the pastor-elect, you know, like we just had been voted in, and literally we crossed the border, and they said, we're home.
Wow.
And it was just, I think, the Spirit of God working in them, like, this is your future. Yeah. And to me, it still amazes me that God did that in such a short amount of time, like, really with no desire, no real, you know, even inkling that we'd ever move out of Sydney, because that's all we knew. So that's awesome. And then how do you feel once you like came to the church, and then you started to maybe just sort of fit in, like come into the church? How did that feel for you? What were your thoughts on areas you wanted to see growth, and like what are your thoughts? I didn't have too many, to be honest. I just wanted to be here, wanted to get a sense of where we're at as a church. Again, I felt like I fit right in with the guys in ministry, just because of our common sort of passion and the memories we've already had. Anyway. So, you know, coming in, it was more about really just getting to know everyone else, and, you know, it's that awkward... What's your name again? Yeah. You know, and all of that, and you know, I guess for the first time in my life, I was the new guy. You know, like, having grown up in the church that I then pastored, everyone else was always new. Yeah. I was never new.
What was that feeling like? It would have been pretty nerve-wracking, I guess.
Yeah, but I just, for me, it wasn't. It was more for probably my family. For me, it wasn't. I'm just... You know, as men, you're all about the work, right? So I came here ready to go. God's call of my life. I was just ready to go. Yeah. And probably if I reflect now, I probably went too hard too early.
Yeah, true.
With my family, like I think looking back now, they probably needed me to sort of slow down for them. But be that as it may, I felt like we pretty much connected. You know, I really felt like even within the first 6 months, I felt like I'd always been here.
Yeah,
like it just felt like that. You know, I had already started to really connect with a few of our guys, and you know, really loved the lifestyle here, but also just the culture of the church. I started to see it start to develop. I saw the heart of the church. I saw just what the church was really about and what it hoped to be still. And I just, honestly, I connect with it so well. Like you know, I'm all about, I love getting to know a place. You know, God's been able to give me different opportunities to preach in different places, and I just love to get to know people, and love to get to know places and what it's all about. So getting to know that and knowing a little bit, and then getting to know more about the church, that was fun for me. It wasn't nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
that was
so
fun.
cool.
You know, celebrating the heritage of the church, that's important. And I just connect with that. And I saw a group of people who at the core really loved this place and really loved the Lord and really loved what God had done here.
That's awesome.
And, you know, like your folks who have raised you guys here, and they were raised here because your grandparents here, and I see that. And I relate to that because that's actually what I was trying to build for my family, you know, in Sydney. So to me, it didn't matter where it was. It was just about having that heritage for the Lord, and I saw that here, and I was like, we're the same.
That's awesome. That's so good.
And it helped that you know, I'm a big footy fan, and everyone else was.
So the
we
big question
connected on
is,
that,
who do you think's going to win out of New South Wales or Queensland
Oh,
this year?
well, look, I'm
In your
always
professional
gonna
opinion.
I'm always gonna barrack for New South Wales. Bro. I'm just saying, you know,
No chance,
your dad would call me an NIV Queenslander, but not the full version, right?
Yeah, mate. Far out, bro.
But hey, listen, I mean, you gotta go for where you're from. So, you know.
Mate, that's just gonna create some church division, mate. Far
Well, hey, I mean, half our church are expat New South Wales, right? So
That's so true.
Hey!
I'm just drawing them here. You know?
That's so true. It's getting taken over, mate. It's crazy.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. Nah,
So,
fair enough.
where do you think the Lord's leading your heart to see God moving in the next couple years?
I'm just excited about the church. I think we're seeing the very early start of growth in the church. I think I'm excited about you guys, like the young adults, our teenagers. I think there's a real excitement. You know, for you guys, would you have ever thought you were going to start a podcast?
Yeah, that's it.
Or be as involved as you guys are now?
Yeah.
And that's exciting for me. You know, I was just often reflect our first Wednesday here. There were 4 young adults.
Really?
That's it. 4 young adults in the
Who were they? Do you remember?
I can't remember because I was still trying to learn your names. But I just remember the 4 young adults.
Wow.
And, you know, now we've got 20 coming on a Wednesday. And I see you guys, you know, from the first time we went to Sydney, you know, as a group. I thought that was, you know, I insisted a little bit.
Yeah.
I had helped start the thing, and I said, you know, I sort of said it'd be a shame if my own church. So I sort of, you know, guilted you guys into it. And, you know,
I don't think Alex was too upset.
No, Alex was not too upset at all. So,
Mate, we had to
in fact,
pull him
Alex still owes me. By the way.
Yo, he still owes you that coffee from where we went last
Yes,
time, mate.
yes, our very first
Our
episode.
first episode, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So those kind of things, I look at it now, and I see, again, just how God has shown himself. And what I'm excited about in the next couple of years is just seeing our church develop into, you know, a real sending station where we can train our own, where we're winning our community, and there's an excitement that's coming into the church rather than just everywhere else.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see God just continue that, you know. I honestly don't have grander plans than that. It's just about seeing God work, and, you know, the rest of the details will fall into place.
That's so true. Yeah. Having the heart, I guess, is the main part.
Yeah.
Eh? And
You
see
know,
what it is.
sometimes there's a pressure, I think, with church to grow.
Yeah.
You know, that this growth mentality.
Like a numbers game
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and a bit of a numbers game. But, you know, I think it was Brother Skelly, actually, that told me. He goes, don't worry about growth. He said, worry about health.
That's
So
true.
make sure that the church is healthy. And he goes, because I asked him, like, I want to grow. But he said, stop. He goes, stop thinking about that. You're already doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
He goes, you're making sure the church is healthy.
Yeah.
You know, feed it good food from the Word of God.
Yeah.
Build relationships. You know, those kind of markers of a healthy church. Multi-generational. You know, work with every generation. So those kind of things, he just encouraged me. He said, look, you already know what you're doing.
Yeah.
He goes, just keep doing that. And you know, I didn't have the heart to tell him, I actually don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's the Lord. Like,
Yeah.
I look at it, and when you're in a place where you know God's called you to be, and you have a passion for that, and you just throw yourself into it, God takes care of the rest. Like, you know, most of the people that have come our way, we haven't really won.
Yeah.
God's just brought them.
Yeah.
You know, I look at it and I go, yeah, we're doing the basic things. You know, we're trying to reach out. We're trying to talk to people. But it seems like the fruitfulness comes anyway. Like, even if we don't see it on that immediate level, God's bringing in other ways. And I think it's just about, again, just making sure spiritually we're healthy.
Yeah.
And how did God call you to, like, take it back right to the beginning? How did God call you to be a pastor?
Well, I just had a heart for ministry. You know, my dad for a long time was the only deacon of the church, which means, as Greg would know, you know, you're a deacon's kid. You're and everything. Like, you're rocking up. You're doing the mowing. You're doing the barbecues. You're doing everything else, and you're sort of just rocking up because your dad's a deacon.
At what point does like that faith become your own? Is that at a point in life or
and it has
decision?
It has to be. And you know, for a while I came because I had to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was going to be a real cost to me if I didn't do what I was told to do, right? So I went, right? But at some point God got a hold of my heart, and what it was the reality of it in my parents' life, the reality of it on in other people's lives that I knew, and how sincere and authentic it was. And when I saw that, I thought, you know, that's got to be, I can't deny it. It's got to be real. And then eventually, as I just hung around people who loved God, I loved God too. You know, and I remember really the first time I really felt the call of God in my life was actually here in Brisbane.
Wow.
We came on a summer conference in Kippering. There was a church there that hosted a big summer conference every year. So my pastor would bring us a group of teenagers. And I was 16 at the time, really at a crossroads. I had sort of had plans for my own life, wanted to pursue different things, you know, maybe a sport or some sort of profession.
Yeah, what were you good at back in the day, Pastor?
Oh, I just loved sport generally.
Sport?
Yeah. So
basketball.
Basketball was my main one, but cricket was the other one too. Yeah. Like I would play both, you know.
Yeah, right.
Most.
Is that in school? I've never seen cricket in school.
No, we had a good team.
No, maybe.
Well, I went to a public school, so we had like 1,200 students in our school.
And they played cricket.
Yeah, we had a junior team.
Yeah, my bad. Very common.
So, but I played a bit of club cricket as well. I played a lot of basketball. You know, at one time I was playing 5 teams.
Oh, wow.
5 sports or 5 basketball teams?
5 basketball teams at the same time.
Finishes one game, walks into the next court over and starts playing with the other
I was
team.
scouted. Like some pro scouts scouted me at 16 when I was playing. It was the Philo League, you know, the Filipino League, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been pro. Like I would have been getting paid.
Yeah.
And then the Panthers had actually recruited me to play wing for them, like in their junior competition. But,
right.
You know, it wasn't really my first thing, but I was pretty quick back then.
Wait, Panthers like rugby league?
Yeah, Penrith Panthers.
Yo, you could be playing with
My kids always ask me, they're like, Dad, why don't you take it? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure you would have been. I don't know how that would have worked.
Yeah.
But, all of that was, as a young person, with everything, really, with the potential of whatever else, you still have to seek God.
Yeah.
You still have to make sure it's what the Lord wants. And thankfully, I had parents, and then also had a pastor who had a heart for, for the Lord, and had a heart for me. And he brought me here, and the preaching was just right on, it was just, the Spirit of God was there, the Word of God was being preached, and I surrendered right there in Kippering, near Redcliffe, and went back and sort of haphazardly declared that I was going to be the next youth pastor of the church. And God had a sense of humor, because I was the next youth pastor of the church. So I don't know where it came from. I just said it out loud. And
that's
then
crazy.
happened. So, but then I just honestly was happy to be the youth pastor. I loved working with young people. I didn't know it at the time, but that was really what God had put in my heart and made me to be.
Yeah.
But then when my pastor at the time was moving on, he had asked me, a few years before that, he said, would you consider being a pastor and being our pastor? And I said, not really, And again, it was weird, because we were heading to Rockhampton for a conference over there. And he asked me on the plane, and I swear it was probably over around Brisbane. But he had asked me to pray about it. And then God had just, again, in his timing, there was a random guest speaker came to our church that same week when we got back. And he was a retired youth pastor. And he comes to me, and I had to pick him up. My pastor, I was associate, so I did all the other jobs, right? So I picked up this guest speaker. I've never met him, from the States. He was visiting other people here. We didn't even know him. Like, we had a common friend, and they said, hey, he's got a spare night. Would you use him? Oh, all right, we'll pick him up. And we're talking, hey, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a pastor. I'm like, oh, okay, how long? He goes, oh, last 20 years. What'd you do before that? And he goes, I was a youth pastor for 20 years. And I was like, oh man, you've been in the ministry for 40? And so I asked him questions, and he goes, what do you do? So I'm the youth pastor right now. He goes, there's going to be a time. He goes, you're going to be too old to be the youth pastor.
Yeah.
He goes, you should think about being the pastor of your church. And I'm just looking at him like, did you talk to my pastor? This is a setup.
Yeah, that's a setup.
Guys, that's just...
For sure.
But literally, he asked me that, and that got my, my mind and my heart ticking over. And just, I started to seek the Lord about that. And we sort of had a 5-year plan, but within 2 years, I was the pastor.
Yeah.
So God accelerated that. And suddenly I found myself, I was the pastor of the church I grew up in. And yeah, to answer it in a long way, it was progressive. Like, it just didn't happen. I didn't want to be a pastor. I just wanted to serve God, and then suddenly I was put in a position where I couldn't deny it. Like, I was, and the church really just didn't even ask the question. It was just like, oh, of course you're going to be our pastor.
Yeah.
And then all those young people that I had grown up in the church with me as their youth pastor was now my young adults, who then became the young marrieds, who now, back there, are raising their kids in the church. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually just wanted to take it back to what you said before when you were talking to Kurt Skelly.
Yeah.
Who, as a pastor, obviously you have a lot of people come to you for advice, and you want, you have to give a lot of counselling and this. But who do you actually go to yourself? Do you have people around you close that you could go to when you need questions answered?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's a mistake at times that you think you reach a certain level of leadership and you don't need leadership yourself. And I've been very blessed that God has given me great friends. Just great friends who have been, much more down the road than I have. And, I've always tended to have older friends. I never really had friends my age, like, honestly. Like, I always played up when I was playing sports, and I was always with older kids. So all of my friends were older. So when I became a pastor, that's just how I sort of naturally, or God had given me that to sort of tend to go to older pastors. And because I was in ministry when I was a little younger, I always hung around pastors.
Yeah.
So, you know, because I would drive my pastor, I would pick up other pastors. I always spent time, and so God gave me older men in the ministry, and they just became my friends. Like, you know, Brother Skelly's a great example of that. You know, Pastor Mansell. You know, even though really his journey was a bit different, and I have other guys. You know, that Pastor Shemish has been instrumental in my life. Pastor Fisher took an interest in me when I was the youth pastor at Southland at the time. You know, I picked him up one time and he actually talked to me, and I was terrified. I was like, what do I say?
Yeah.
He's reading my mind, you know? Like, he's a bit like the Yoda of the group, but he just sort of, he spoke to me like he knew me.
Wow.
And God used him so many times. But other guys that God has brought through different seasons of my life that, you know, just gave me the right kind of counsel and advice. And honestly, that's something that I would say to anyone is just find those who've gone on a little bit in their journey and just learn. Just ask questions and be willing to sometimes even be rebuked or corrected. And there's been plenty of that. You know, what I know about my friends is they're not that impressed with me. So but that's good. Like, don't find friends that are too impressed with you, because they'll never tell you the truth. But,
That's true.
I just appreciate that. Like, we can have fun, and we have a lot of that. But we also can, you know, they've told me some tough stuff, and I've really been thankful for it.
Yeah, it helps you grow. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
So you're very busy with ministry, obviously. How do you make time for family?
You just have to be disciplined, and you know, I think I learned through mistakes.
Right.
When I was already in ministry when Azariah and I got married.
True.
Like, I was already the youth pastor. I was full time. I was already the youth pastor, the school administrator, the music director, everything else. Right.
You're the music director?
Yeah, I was music director.
Wow.
I was full time. Like, I was full time with 3 different hats. You know, and so we got married, and we knew nothing else. I mean, she was, even while we were dating, we served in the same ministries. You know, she sort of came into youth, came alongside me while we were dating, and we knew nothing else. Like, we just started out that way. But honestly, it's hard when you do something that you love to be balanced. And there were times, and I'm thankful for Azzy, because she's so, she knows how to speak to me, to just sort of tell me, like, you're doing too much, you know.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I've just become better at listening to my wife. That's really really what I'm getting at. Because there were times where I just was like, no, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
And, you know, very quickly we had Vicky, and so to sort of complicate other things in our lives, we had a child that we were suddenly looking after. And, you know, we were pretty unhealthy to begin with. I just pushed it. I would burn the midnight oil every night.
Yeah.
But I was younger too, you know, so I thought I could do it. But there were times where I just neglected really just being home. And but over the years, I sort of realized, again, through just Azzy being persistent, and also just being a lot more balanced, and then just learning from my observation of others, and just pastors who spoke to my life and spoke into, you know, my situation, that I needed better balance. So the solution to that was just being a lot more disciplined in my schedule, and, you know, recognizing that if something's always going to give. So if I can't discipline myself in my study, in my counseling, in, you know, my different other opportunities, preaching out, whatever, I can't lend myself to everything. So I've also had to learn how to say no to things.
Yeah.
And just be disciplined in my schedule, and learning what my priorities are, you know. So there's just some things that no one else can do for you.
Yeah.
And one of those is no one else can be a husband to my wife, and no one else can be a father to my kids.
Yeah.
So I've got to step up that, you know, that part of it when needed, and just balancing it all is just through. You just got to be disciplined in your schedule.
So.
Yeah, right.
That's such good advice. And like, it must be so hard, especially when you're young, when you have all that drive, you know what I mean? And then to be able to prioritize and balance, and man, it must be a lot of like, I guess, prayer and just,
And I was stubborn.
yeah.
Like, I was driven.
Yeah.
I was just,
You just want to see it.
like I said, prior to being married, I was already in ministry, so I was used to being single and having all my time.
Yeah, true.
And doing things, you know, like taking all of our teenagers out. Like every night, I had a group of guys with me, and we'd just go. I'd take them out to eat. We'd go muck around. We'd go pick them up early. We're gonna go pray.
Yeah.
So I just lived it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. So when I got married,
completely different.
Yeah, I had to step back and recognize. And you know, again, we had some breaking points, to be honest. Like, you know, there were times where I know for sure my wife was upset.
Yeah.
And I still went.
Yeah.
And I had to come back and apologize, get things right. But you know, if you're willing to be corrected, even by your, you know, those that God's given you, your wife, others who care about you, then all of those things get adjusted over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're stubborn, and then things just, you know, you get in your own way.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, good stuff.
It seems to me that you've got a lot of wisdom. What specific action steps did you take, and do you take to gain wisdom?
It's just life, isn't it? Like, you gotta be willing to learn, and I don't know. It's just still one of my major prayer point every day is for wisdom. You know, I think, again, biblically, right? If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask. And just the basic and the fundamental of asking. You know, there's times where I just know I lack wisdom for a situation, or I lack wisdom for this season of my life. You know, I read again this morning how the Israelites came through, and it was, the Bible uses the phrase that they'd never stepped through this before, so along those lines. And it was Joshua coming into the promised land. They've never walked here before.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's actually the reality every day. Like, you've never been this age, right?
Yeah.
So you're always stepping into new things. So why should I stop asking?
That's so true.
You've got to continue to ask. And again, I'm just blessed that I've had others who have just been available to sort of guide and give me scriptural principles, or just give me a perspective. And whether it's I was open to it and I sought it, I don't know. I think there's a bit of a dynamic of that. If you don't seek it, you won't find it.
Yeah.
So I think if you know you lack wisdom, and then you seek after it, then you will find it. But a lot of guys, I think they go through life, and you know, I'm not someone that's not prone to it. Everyone's got pride. But when you have pride and you think you just figure out yourself, that's so often when you will learn, but it will cost you too. So
That's awesome. Good advice. Yeah, well, I think pride's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
Especially in young guys.
Yeah,
like me, myself.
It's in us, right? Like, we wanna claim we figured it out.
Yeah.
And you will. But sometimes, in figuring it out, it'll also cost you, and you know, if you could do it without the cost, maybe, or if you could avoid some of those traps that others have learned from, why wouldn't you learn from someone else?
It's so true.
You know, you're gonna make mistakes anyway. Let's just make less. You know.
I heard like to get humbled. I mean, to lose your pride, God has to humble you, and like He has to put you. Like, I know a lot of people have to get put through like the worst situations. Have to have like horrible circumstances, and it's like, man, if you can like lose the pride without having those situations, like why would you not want that? You know what I mean? So
absolutely, and no one's immune.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times I know God's humbled me. You know, there's times and it's because pride's deceptive, right? Like sometimes you don't think it's pride, but it is pride. And you go through it, and then you look back and you go, man, I was so prideful. God had to put me through that. Like, I didn't realize.
You don't realize it till after.
And then afterwards, you're like, Man, God had to. Man, he had to go through some imaginative stuff to get me through that.
What's an example of that in your life?
Oh, I think sometimes, I think even good things we can be over reliant on, and we start to have rose-colored glasses about it.
Right.
I think sometimes we have an over reliance on people who've been good to us, and I'm not saying that people have malice, but sometimes they also that's not what you should rely on. You should always rely on the Lord ultimately, and even like a good thing, like good friends or stability.
Yeah.
You start to rely on stability.
Yeah.
And you start to get comfortable, and what's happening is pride's starting to build up. Like, oh, I've got it good.
Yeah.
Oh, look what I've done.
That's because of exactly.
Yeah, and suddenly, what God will do sometimes is He'll take that away, and that stability, that security that you thought will never change, does change.
Wow.
And then suddenly, when it's taken away, and those rose-colored glasses are taken off,
Yeah.
then you start to go, I need to actually look at God, and look to Him. And there's been situations like that where things that I thought I had, fully given myself to, I thought I had built, and God's sort of just taken away, and let me fail.
Wow.
And let me go, man, it wasn't what I thought.
Yeah.
And that's because I had taken my eyes off Him.
Yeah.
And so you sort of go through it and go, well, that was silly. But, I mean, I wouldn't have seen it regardless, without that. And, yeah, I think success and consistency can do that to you.
Yeah.
Even when your motives are right, we're just prone to...
That's just in us.
We're prone to it. Yeah. And carnality and pride just creeps in. And we've just got to be guarded, and we're really... That's how reliant we need to be on the Lord. Because even in the blessings, we get inflated.
The daily dependence, it's full on.
Yeah.
That's good, Pastor.
And how do you determine the will of God?
I think sometimes there's a bit of a misconception, I think, about the will of God. We tend to focus on the secret things. We tend to focus on the details, when actually the will of God is more, it's not actually about the details, it's the direction. And God, the direction is clear in the scriptures. And if you follow that as a path, you won't miss God's will.
Yeah, I remember what you said at the very beginning of this. You said when you were praying, you were talking about Brisbane, and you read in your Bible, and that's when God spoke to you. Yeah. I recognize that, yeah.
And that's what, if you stick to what is clear in Scripture, the details will come. Then I always think the will of God is a direction. If you're going the right way, you won't miss it. So, how do you determine the will of God? Just focus in on the things that you know. You focus in on the revealed will of God in His Word. You focus in on what He's already revealed to you personally, as a Christian, but in your calling, in your... The Bible uses the word vocation. In Ephesians chapter 4, it talks about walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called. And that word vocation is really, it's one word that describes everything about you. So your vocation is, your gender. You're a man, right? You're a woman. That's part of God's will for you. And if you focus on what God expects of you as a man, then you won't miss out on the things that He'll bless you as a man, right? And so those kind of things that, I know it's simple, but that word vocation is actually very critical. Part of my vocation is I'm a husband. So what does God expect the husband to do? I'm a father. What does God... So those kind of things that are clear, then I don't have to wonder about it just comes as I just fulfill those responsibilities. The details come. And I think, again, sometimes we get caught up in I don't know God's will. No, you do.
Yeah.
It's just, do you want to do it?
That's it. We're looking for something secret and really...
One of my favorite verses is Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord thy God. But the things that are revealed, they belong to thee and thy children forever.
Wow.
And so the things that are revealed is actually what we should focus on. But what do we tend to do? We tend to focus on the secret things.
So true.
Right? And I've done it, but I just know how I've been guided is when I focus on the big rocks of the Christian life. Like just the things that I know. The things that I know are stable and steady. And I'm in question. And what I found is as I've stepped that way, those other things have come to be. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciated last week and with the missions conference. It was kind of highlighted a bit as well. And that was something actually I took from it. Was God's will is doing these things. Like these are reaching out to other people, like reaching out to the lost.
Yeah.
It was really challenging. So yeah.
That's right. Again, like I think we overcomplicated the Christian life sometimes. Like, again, we're looking for details that we're not even obedient to the things that are obvious.
Yeah.
As if, like, someone told me that the key to the will of God is obedience. And if we obey in the things that we already know, then God can trust us in the finer details.
Yeah.
But why would he trust you with the greater things when he can't trust you with the little things?
Yeah.
When he can't trust you with the things that are so clear, why would he trust you with the things that, we're really after? And so the key is really just the obedience of what you know. So,
Pastor, we're having a good chat right now. I'm really liking it. What do you want to see for the future of the church? I guess we've already touched on a bit. You just want to see this consistent, just sacrifice, giving it all to God. But what maybe in the down the track would you want to see further ministries? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, one of the areas I'm really excited about is our Bible Institute. I think that if we actually are going to make good fist of sending men and ladies to the field, whether here it's in Australia or just within our church or global missions, we've got to just be able to have the ability to train our own. And there's a lot of different options out there. I'm not saying that there's only one way to learn your Bible, but I think it's really important that as God gives us, the young people and others that'll be part of our church, who they're starting to feel the call of God or want to prepare just in case, then I think we have a responsibility. So I think I'd love to see us develop our Bible Institute into a full-fledged program. To do that, we need to develop, our own lectures, and I want to invest in, the men that we have now, give opportunity for them to really grow in that. But other things, with that, I do think that as we grow in that journey, we're going to need facilities. With that, I'd love to sort of extend that opportunity out so that it's within even the scope of our school. We're known to be, a ministry school where maybe young people that are coming through our church and our school, they're getting that early preparation.
Yeah, right.
And not just...
So like people from school sort of going straight into church.
The early credit for Bible Institute, perhaps.
Yeah, right.
I'd love to at some point, whether it's the will of God or not, we'll see as we go. But I'd love for our Bible Institute to become a full-fledged college and maybe an accredited. And so there's some things that I've been praying through about that. And without giving too much away, I just think that I want to be a platform. I think the need is too great for us to sort of just be inward focused.
Yeah.
We want to continue to look outside. We want to continue to train so that when there is a need, we've got a group of men and ladies ready. Yeah. Rather than sort of hoping, we're planning. Yeah. And I think that's the mentality I want to come to, is that we're preparing ahead rather than being reactive. We're being proactive. So, and the other things, I think because of that, God will bring us more, and we become better stewards of that, which means that we can, hopefully we can reach our own community, be more of an influence and try to stem the tide of things here in Australia.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more churches planted. You know, as we know, we've just planted a church over in Sanford Valley there with the Devidassins. Exciting start. It's just been a couple of weeks now. But to me, what the Lord taught me there is, you know, sometimes you have your plans long term, but He can make it happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then there's other churches that have just need right now that I just pray for every day, and we'll see. I mean, I'd love to support, and I'd love to send more of our own people out and just support them. See, just make a dent of it, you know. So
that's awesome. Good stuff. Another part of growth, Pastor. We want to see some growth in the basketball team.
Yeah, mate. Listen,
we got some prospects.
Here's the real ministry. No, we've just one of the things, like when I came here with the school, was that we hardly had any sports programs.
Yeah,
you know?
it's true.
And I was just like, I grew up playing sport, and I think you learn a lot. I mean, part of what the Bible teaches, Paul uses so many sports illustrations, right, about the Olympics and running and boxing, and I think that you'll learn so much, because I think Christians need to realize that actually Christian life is competitive.
Yeah.
You need to have a will to win. You know, a lot of Christians are defeated in their daily lives because they have no will to win. You know, and you learn that on the sporting field.
That's so true.
And so, man, I'd been praying, but sort of just working with our school staff and just really hoping. And then finally, they looked into a competition, and then, you know, they somehow picked basketball. And
No bias at all.
So,
no bias.
Yeah, so myself and Matthew Terracini, who's the sports teacher, and then Pastor Phil. Yeah, we've all just taken it upon ourselves, and I've self-appointed me as the head coach, and just taken over basically. So
that's
and
crazy.
you know, when you're the board chair, you sort of just pull rank. So, so we've been having a great time. And,
that's awesome.
So
I was talking to Josh. He's like, man, Pastor takes it so serious. He's ordering. He's doing drills. He's doing everything.
Mate, I told him. I said, we're not making up numbers. I go, we're
here to win.
At least try to win. Like, I'm not going to turn up and like lose handily every week. Like, if we do in trying, then whatever. But if we're just going to rock up and be a joke, I'm not going to be part of it. So, I'm pretty serious. Like you ask some of the students that are on the team, and they've been running a lot of laps. And
that's awesome.
I've been getting in their face. Parents, I apologize if your kids are traumatized. It's not my intention. I actually care about your kids. Right? No, we're gonna have a great time. So,
mate, the greater good.
Yeah, that's it. And so we've sort of just come up with a team. So Good Shepherd Warriors, here we come.
The Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors.
Cool.
So
that sounds
we just finalized our logo. Got jerseys.
Oh, right.
We've already got like supporter wear ready to go.
Let's go.
Wait, you got sponsors?
Oh, well, listen.
Yeah.
Danny.
Yeah.
Greg's offering egg right Just take it off your salary.
Wow.
It's Greg and Andy Unleashed.
That's an idea.
Yeah, I don't know you guys were making money out of
this. We're not, but Greg's making money.
No, look, we're just getting started, so we're having a great time, pushing the kids and trying to get the team together. But slowly but surely, we've even got a holiday 2-day boot camp for I was not going to give them a break over the holidays, so.
Pastor, I got an idea for the Warriors, the logo. Just be a photo of me and Andy, mate. That's the real Warriors, mate. Fucking Andy Unleashed underneath that.
I'm trying to see the correlation.
You know what?
You're going to win every game.
I think that could happen, although you might find in your pay slip next year that the tax rate goes up by about 10-15% each week.
That's it, mate.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting the jerseys, so.
It's an idea, mate.
Still looking for, there's a patch here for the sponsorship.
That's my signature when they come ask me. It's good.
It's cool.
All right, Pastor. The question, we're about to wrap it up, but there's always a question that has to be asked.
Yep.
and not the one you're thinking of. It's a different one.
What am I thinking about?
The one I want to know past that is here we go. How'd you meet your wife?
Oh,
And from that, how do you?
Oh, smooth. Whoa.
Relationship advice.
No, it's funny.
Sorry, getting to a relationship advice.
Oh, was that a serious question?
No. Wait. Nah.
I thought it legit was.
Nah, okay, I'm just kidding.
Oh, we met at church. I mean, she came along. I think her family came along at a church picnic. And the first time I met her, literally, she was running into bowl. The boys were playing cricket, and she came running. I look up and there's this girl running into bowl, and I'm like, "What in the world?" Like, so I just, she bowled and I smashed her.
No mercy.
I take no prisoners. But then, we just got to know each other, and actually, it was. I have to give credit to my sister because she made friends with her first, and then when Irene and John were dating in Sydney, it's a bit controversial, but here in Queensland, there's not really, chaperones. But in Sydney, it's all about chaperones, all right?
Yeah.
So we won't open that can of worms, but
if anyone needs a chaperone, that is one thing that's on my bucket list.
and he's available. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You want to be a third wheel?
Yeah, literally. How much fun? I'll just rock with some snacks. Just be like, so guys.
Ask the awkward questions. That's what you do. Mate, it was worse. When you went out on a date, you had to have a chaperone, and you paid for them too.
What?
Yeah.
Oh right, I am. Anyone.
Andy is on right now. So when John and Irene were dating, it had to be me or one of the other sisters, and so they asked me, and then eventually they were like, "Let's play tennis," and I'm like, "You can't play tennis with 3 people." And then so they asked Azariah to come. And she's a great tennis player, by the way, really good.
Really?
And so she came along, so it was her and I versus John and Irene, and from there,
Did she show you up, mate?
I mean, love match, really. That's what it was. So but look, she's so good. When she was, and I'd hate to admit this in a public forum, but 5 months pregnant, she beat me.
Oh, that would never come out of my mouth, mate, if that was me.
It hurt me bad.
Insta clip
Talk about ego.
Man, that's that pride example you're thinking
exactly. See, now you're getting it. So
it's like,
seriously, 5 months pregnant.
Wow.
So we were in this brand new complex God blessed us with, right? And there was a tennis court there, pool. And she's like, "Let's play tennis." I'm like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah, I need a bit of exercise." And okay, let's play. And I'll be honest, I was taking it seriously because I'm serving as hard as I can, and I'm playing. And man, I was leading, and then suddenly she took over. I was like, man,
bro, you just better go Nick Kyrgios and smack that racket, mate.
5 months I walked off. I think I retired. I was done.
That's it. Put the racket down.
But so that's sort of how we. But really, most of our time we just spent. We were at church. We were serving. We just, we were sort of had the same sort of interests as far as serving. So we were always in kids ministry. She sung, I sung. So we were in music. So those kind of things, they just sort of happened as we were serving. So.
Yeah, shout out Azzy, mate.
I reckon.
Shout her out. Had to put up with you, mate.
Just punching, so.
Yeah. That's good, Pastor. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, the last question, mate.
So, Pastor, what is a key life takeaway that you have to share with us and the people that are watching?
This is what we say every episode, Pastor. Okay. If you've been listening, you'd know. Respect.
No, honestly, I think again, just going on to, we've been talking a lot about the will of God, right? And if you follow God, you'll never miss His will. If you just follow Him, if you just focus on following His word, following His plan, then really the things that we're talking about, the will of God, how we term it, you're not going to miss it. And I think if we overly focus on all of what could happen rather than what needs to happen, And what needs to happen is just that you're focused on Him. You're focused on, the simple things of obedience, the simple things of faith, and everything else will follow. And when you look back, He was guiding you the whole time anyway. And I look at my life, I'm glad for everything. I don't see myself as having this extraordinary life in a sense, but I also think I've done some pretty cool things.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to see some really great things because of the Lord. And I'm almost really just a bystander of things. And I think sometimes we try to overplan and overwork ourselves to fulfill something when God will do it anyway. So, yeah, if you follow God, you'll never miss His will.
It's good advice. It's awesome. Wow. Well, appreciate it, Pastor.
No worries.
What an
Thanks
awesome
for having
experience.
me.
Yeah.
Shout out 100 followers as well.
Hey.
That's so
Yeah, we got it.
onward and forward.
That's it.
You know it.
I'll come back for the 1,000.
Yeah.
Hey, that sounds good.
it.
Sounds good.
By faith, obviously.
We're going to manifest this.
Oh, don't even go down that road, bro. Don't even go down that road. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Pastor.
No worries.
Guys,
My pleasure.
it's Greg and Angie Unleashed. We'll catch you on the next one.